All right. Okay, so we have Jackie and we have Anna in acoustic guitar. So today we're talking about different strumming patterns. And like Jimmy, this it'd be great. And Adley, if you guys had anything to add to this, you can jump in as well. But again, if you have to be somewhere else, don't worry about it. Um, yeah. So strumming patterns. When I was first learning guitar, strumming patterns was one of the more difficult aspects of trying to figure out how to play. Like, um, what do I do with my right hand? Like, I was figuring out the chord stuff with my left hand, but figuring out what to play with the right hand was always kind of a struggle for me. Um, and as I've been teaching guitar for the last few years, that's something that people have been asking about. Is like, what do you do with your right hand? How do you figure out different strumming patterns? So today we're going to do that. Do you guys have Jackie and Anna? Do you guys have guitars with you? Cool. Just want to know like how to
I do.
figure this out. Sweet. All right. So as we get going, I got a couple. Like we'll kind of keep a couple things in mind. Some big picture tips for the first one I have is always practice with the metronome. So as you're practicing with playing, practicing with a metronome is the best way that we can practice playing in time, and especially for acoustic guitar, like this is a rhythm instrument for a large part of what we play is very rhythmic. So we can absolutely derail a group if you're not playing in time. And Chris can tell you, like, time isn't really always my friend. Like, I struggle with playing in time a little bit, and I've been trying to work on that by practicing with a metronome or a click, in hopes that it will help me to have better time as I'm playing. So practice with a metronome. This can be like, I actually don't even have one here. This could be a standalone metronome, or it could be an app. Do you guys have a metronome app that you use? No,
I do.
you do. All right. Hey, hold on one second. I gotta help Rachel figure something out real quick. Hold on. Share screen.
Hey Josh, while you're doing that,
Yeah.
if I could just jump in, just to reiterate the metronome, and you guys, another cool thing that I found recently here on YouTube, whenever you're practicing strum patterns, if stuff is too fast for you, you can slow.
Thanks, Josh.
Hey, I don't know how to turn that on.
I don't know either. I hit record and it kept saying ask your person for permission. And I said okay, but then it never gave me a chance to ask for permission.
Allow record. Here we go. Boom. There you go. Allow
Perfect.
record. It shows it's recording now. Cool.
Perfect.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, I'm hopping out.
Thank you.
Little dots at the bottom for settings. You click on that, and then there's something that says change speed, and it has some presets, or you can type in what you want. Similar thing on your phone. You just click those three dots, and it brings up. It's pretty neat. Sometimes the songs sound kind of weird. Sometimes they have a kind of a cool groove to them whenever you slow them down. But it's for me, especially like transcribing and sometimes practicing along with things, it's super helpful to be able to do that. So a lot of my students have been doing that here recently.
That is awesome. I paid
Yeah.
$10 for an app to do that. Didn't know
Nah,
you could do
man.
it for free.
YouTube.
YouTube. Amazing.
Which
Awesome.
one is that? Oh, like slowing down YouTube videos?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that. So you guys probably already talked about this, but this is the app that I use. It's just called Tempo. If it'll focus. But it's on the App Store. It's great. So use a metronome for sure. The other thing to keep in mind as we're strumming is to keep your wrist loose. A lot of times I'll see people try to like strum with their elbow. Like they'll try to strum like this, and that makes your playing really tight. If you keep your wrist loose, like you're kind of like, flicking your hand a little bit, or, you're shaking your watch down or something, like playing with your wrist makes your playing, you know, less rigid. It's a little looser, and you can like for me, it helps me to stay in time than trying to like it do like this. When I play like this, it's very tiring. When you play with your wrist, I mean, yes, your elbow moves as well, but when you play with your wrist, it's less tiring. It's a little easy. And then the third thing for me, as you know, just a general all-around tip before we actually dive into some of these, is to keep your hand moving. There's this idea of a constant strumming technique. So, and if you think about it, it's very simple. Like it's physics. If you're going to down strum, your hand has to come back up to be in a position to strum down again. So it doesn't, like the simplest strumming patterns and the most complicated strumming patterns all have the same thing in common, in that your hand is always moving up and down. Like your hand is always coming up and down. So if you keep your hand moving in time, it will help you, one, stay in time, but two, be ready for that next hit. So like if I'm playing like just quarter notes, I can think of them as just individual hits. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. But what will end up happening is that will end up being slow because I'm not moving my hand in time. So it's just going 1, 2, 3. So that looks and it feels weird, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4. So my hand is coming up on like the 8th note. I don't know if that is relaying as well with the camera latency, but so if you keep your hand moving, it will help you stay in time. So move your hand in beat with like the 8th note, if that makes sense. Cool. All right, so let's dive in here. The first, my favorite strumming pattern is the 8th note strum. It is the easiest thing to do. For me, it's easier to play 8th notes than it is to play quarter notes, because if you subdivide even more than the quarter note, it helps me to stay in time a little better. So playing 8th notes is for me a little bit easier, but it is without a doubt probably the most universal strumming pattern I can think of. You can play it for songs in 4/4. It works for songs in 6/8. It works in slow songs. It works in fast songs. And it doesn't sound elementary like some of the other strumming, like the simple strumming patterns do. Like I'll play 8th note strumming patterns all the time. It's useful when you're playing by yourself, or if you're playing in a band, because if you're playing in a band, you're not adding too much rhythm, so you're not getting in the way of a drummer. But if you're playing by yourself, it still sounds full. So I love 8th note strums. So let me give an example of what that would be. So if your strummings are if this let me give us a tempo. So quarter notes would be like this: 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 8th notes. And that's using all just down strums, and that's usually, if I'm playing 8th note strummings, that's usually what I'll do, is they're just all down strums, unless it gets too fast for me to go down. And like this is 100 beats per minute, and this is almost too fast. Like you could go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You could do that as well, but for me, 8th note strumming patterns are usually down strums. Jimmy, is it like, and that may be a personal preference. I'm just curious what you do as well.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, and then Josh, I'm sure you're going to talk about this in a second, but all the other busy strum patterns flow out of that 8th note.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you can get that 8th note down strum, a great thing for you if you're trying to just kind of develop a feel with it, so that it doesn't just sound like everything you're hacking away at it, is if you put a little bit of an accent, like on 2 and 4, if you're in 4/4 time, then that pattern, you can slap it on pretty much anything in 4/4 and it's going to sound good.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Ian, how's it going? We are in worship team breakouts. I just want to make sure you got to the class that you were looking for. Is there a particular breakout class that you're looking for? We have electric guitar, acoustic guitar, keys, drums, and bass and vocals.
This is fine.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure you're where you wanted to be. Okay, so Yes, like Jimmy said, because it is such a simple strumming pattern, from like you can use accents to help you make it sound a little better. So here's an example. So you know, if I'm just playing eighth note strumming pattern on a G chord without an accent, it would sound like this. That's a little bit boring, right? There's nothing to it. You don't really know where I am in the pattern. You don't know where one is. By adding just a little bit of an accent, you can kind of give it some shape. So 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And that's putting an accent on each beat and letting the and of each beat kind of be a little bit lighter. You can kind of make different levels of accent as well. So like you can accent the strongest, and then beat 3 maybe the second strongest. So it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And depending on the song, you may want to accent 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So you see how different accents can help you give the song some shape. You can kind of help, you can lend it even some genre to it as well. So like different genres will have different types of accents on those. And those are all just eighth notes. So it works really easy. Let's give that a shot. If you guys have a guitar handy, grab your guitar and let's just give this a little practice. So we won't, because of the latency of the internet, we won't be able to play this together. So if you just leave your mic muted and you play along with me, I think we'll all be in good shape. But let's start with quarter notes. I'm gonna slow down just a touch. All right, so this is 90 beats per minute. Let's start by just playing downstroke quarter notes. All right, and then we will shift into eighth notes. So this is just quarter notes. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. This is why it's very important to practice with the metronome, so you can kind of build that sense of tempo in your mind. All right, as we do this, still try to practice these accents. So accent 1 in particular, like the beat 1, accent that the most. Let's try it again. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, now let's go to eighth notes. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Yeah, there you go. Okay, the other thing I would say to this is, on the beats that you're not accenting, you don't have to strum all 6 strings. That's another trick. So it doesn't have to be by minimizing the number of strings that you play on like the end of each beat, you kind of also give it some shape. So maybe sometimes on the lighter strums, you only want to strum the lower couple of strings. So 1, 2. You see how that works? So like my full strums, I'm strumming all 6 strings on each beat, and the end of each beat, I'm only strumming the bottom couple of strings. It keeps the movement happening, but it still gives like a sense of like a quarter note kind of pattern, even though we are playing eighth notes. Or you can do the inverse, where you can play the top couple of strings on the and. So it would be like this. I think for me that's probably a little backwards from what I would normally play, but like some songs, you know, that would work a little better. So let's see. You guys have any questions? I don't want to move too fast. What do you guys think? Is this something that is familiar to you, or what do you guys think?
Josh, I would hop in just to reiterate that. I would. Do you think that most of the time when you're doing a strum pattern on the unaccented notes, would you say that most of the time you're not playing all six strings?
Yes. Most of the time, I'm not playing all six strings because especially at an eighth note pattern, it would be kind of exhausting as opposed to I think it's also exhausting to listen to as well.
It is. I think of it sometimes like if a keyboard player were to sit down and put six fingers down and just hit all of that all the time,
Yeah,
nobody would stick around to listen to that. And I feel the same way with a guitar player that we've got to add some texture to our playing there. So that was
exactly.
a great point.
Yeah, and especially like, acoustic guitar, especially like if we're strumming, it's easy to think that, like, well, I'm in the key of G, I know all these chords, G, C, D, E minor. This is a no-brainer. But you can give your playing some shine and some a sense of professionalism by just being selective as to what you play. So like choosing which strings you want to play in certain parts helps to give it some depth as well, some dynamic level, and not dynamic like loud soft, but dynamics as opposed as it relates to levels, basically. Yeah, some layers. Jackie, what do you think? Does this make sense?
Yes.
All right. Is this something that you already do?
Yeah.
All right, good. Anna, what do you think?
I think it's crazy.
It's crazy?
Easy.
Oh, easy. Okay. Well, let's take it up a notch. All right. How do you guys feel about upstrokes? Because I don't want to spend too much time on stuff that you already know. How do you feel about like upstrokes?
For me, it sometimes feels weird, like uncomfortable,
Yeah.
because I usually do downstrokes,
Mm-hmm.
especially when I see tutorials when they're like down, down, up, up, and that's when I get confused.
Yep. I totally get that. Yes. So when I was learning to play, upstrokes was, like there were certain walls or certain hurdles that I had to really work hard to kind of get over to be able to climb over that wall. For me, upstrokes was the first like big hurdle. Well, I think the first hurdle was like how much it hurt on my fingers the first like week or two I was playing. But then after that, like downstrokes is easy. It's the upstrokes that was always hard for me, and it was one of those things like I pushed and pushed and pushed until finally I got over that wall. For me, it was like I found that my pick would get caught on the strings, and I'd end up like losing the pick. And I couldn't understand like how are you supposed to do that? Like it's not a fast thing until it just clicked. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind with this. You don't have to hit on the upstrokes. Again, you don't have to hit all six strings because typically an upstroke is going to be on the end of a beat. You would rarely like upstroke on like the downbeat on like a quarter note. It would only be for effect. So most of the time it's an and or an upbeat anyway. So your upstrokes can be just like a flick of your wrist, like you're only grabbing the top couple of strings. Does that make sense? So by just hitting the top couple of strings, it's you're not having to like pull it up as high or as hard. Does that make sense? All right, let's try an exercise with that then. Let's do let's just do an eighth note strumming pattern where we're going to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. The other thing that for me, like if I'm doing a lot, like if I'm doing a fast pattern with upstrokes, I find that sometimes I'll have to hold, instead of using my index and thumb to hold a pick, I'll have to use three fingers to hold a pick. So I give myself a little bit more room. And for me, I don't know if it's the same for you, Jimmy, but for me, I have to, like, I end up like moving my pick around as I'm playing to like reposition it a lot, because like as you're playing, it'll end up getting turned. So then I find like you're playing on the long side, so I just have to like keep turning it. Maybe that's just something I do.
No, yeah, I think so. It's something that probably a lot of us do unconsciously, and we probably don't think about it until we have to explain it, and we
This
realize
is
that.
and this is a question that like I actually don't even know, because I never took guitar lessons. Is the proper way to hold a pick, is it just with 2 fingers, or is it acceptable to use 3?
I've seen I never at that point really took lessons either, but from watching guys, I've seen both. I've even seen guys like flip their pick around if they want a softer sound and use this
Yeah.
back part, and then they really use 3 because they've got more room to kind of come out here. But I tend to, just depending on what I'm doing, I'll use either one.
Yeah.
That's a good question though. I don't know what the consensus is.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just always held it with 3, like 2 on the top and the thumb on the bottom.
Yep.
All right, let's do an exercise where we're just going to do 1/8 notes, down, up, down, up, down, up. About this tempo. This is the same 90. Here we go. 1 and 2 and ready, go. I'm just going to count out loud. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 Yeah, and this is one of those things. I don't often do a strumming pattern slow like that, where I'm going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So this is actually good. It's good practice for me to keep like it. The slower, if you can do it at a slow tempo, you can do it at a fast tempo. So trying to keep in time with something that's a little bit slower, it really does help to build up your timing. And if you're having trouble with it, like I was at first, if you count it out loud, it helps you to kind of lock that in your mind. So if you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, it will help you. It'll help that time to lock in. Does that make sense? One, two. Let's try another pattern. This one is so you're going down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 down. And if you notice on this one, on my downstrokes, I'm not strumming all 6 strings. And that's, for me, it's just kind of a subconscious thing. Like you could like down, 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 down. And there may be times when you would need the full range of all 6 strings, but that time, like I was really just hitting the bottom couple of strings on beats 1 and 2. So if you're counting at 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm really only hitting the top strings on the ends of 3 and 4. Let's try that. Let's try that pattern. So we're going down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. Down, 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 down. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. Yeah. All right, here's another thing that I'll do. So if I'm going back to the 1/8 note strumming pattern, it's a little bit faster. So this one it's just 8 notes with down strums until I get to beat 4, and I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1. Let's try that. Let's try it together. So the chords I'm playing are G, D, E minor, and C. Let's try that. Here we go. 1, 2, ready and go. G. Yeah. Okay. What do you guys think about that? How does that feel? Is this still easy? Is it still boring? Anna, what do you think?
I still think it's pretty easy.
All right. Do you want to try it? Can we hear it?
Oh no.
Come on. You could do this.
No.
No.
I'm good.
All
I'm
right.
good.
What do you think, Jackie?
I've been messing up.
Okay. Do you want to share with us, and we can try to help you?
Yeah. Is it like down? Like, is the same pattern we just practiced?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just all down. So slowing it down just a little bit. Down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down. You want to try that?
Sure.
There you go. Keep going. Yeah, that's good, Jackie. So just remember, like your hand is making the 16th note pattern all the time anyway. If you're playing eighth notes, your hand is going down on the eighth note, and then it's got to come back up. So if you keep your hand moving in that constant 16th note pattern, like down, up, 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 down, you're only making contact on beat 4, on the E and the of 4, if that makes sense. So even though you're going down, 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 your hand has to come back up in between. So you're already making the hand motion for down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. You're just not hitting the string on the up, if that makes sense. So if you keep your hand moving in that constant, like as if you were playing in real time, it will help you to be in time. But then when you get to 4, beat 4, where you are playing down, up, like you're in that motion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Ian, what do you think?
It's feeling pretty comfortable to me.
Okay. Good deal. Yeah. Yes. All right. So let's move to something different. All right, let's go to muted strums. So there are times when sometimes you want to just kind of like as you're playing it, there may be times where you kind of want, like, I don't know, maybe you want to put like a muted chunk in there. This is another thing that you could do. You can do this by a couple of different ways. You can either kind of halfway lift up with your left hand, or you can do a palm mute with your right hand. So if you're doing let's see, down up, let's try that, down up. So I'm going down, up, mute, up, 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 down. And on the mute, I'm using my right hand to kind of like, slap down with like the fleshy part of my wrist to mute the string. So I'm still hitting it with my pick, but it's not actually making a sound. It's just a chunk. So if I'm doing that slow, it's down, up, Let's give that a try. So just on a G chord, let's do it at that tempo, and then we'll try to pick it up a little bit. So here we go. 1, 2, ready and go. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Yeah, let's try to do it a little bit faster. Ready? 1 and 2 and ready and go. Down, up. C. Back to G. E minor. C. Yeah. I don't know. That's probably not like a pattern you'd use very often, but you know, it's another one in your arsenal. What do you think?
Josh, what are some reasons why you might choose to do some muted strums? Like, what kind of situation would you be in where maybe that'd be something that you would decide to do?
I love, like, truthfully, I don't use that pattern very often, but one of the cool things that it does is it does emulate a little bit of a drum set. So you're doing the chunk, that very rhythmic thing on beat 2 and 4. So that's like the snare drum. So as you know, if you had a drum set where, you know, just a regular backbeat, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, where you have the snare on 2 and 4. If you're not playing with a drum set, that can be your snare drum. Blessed be your name, and that is plentiful. I mean, it just depends on the song that you're going for. That's not really how I would do that, but there are some songs, particularly if you're trying to do something a little more, like that might be a little more country western, but that chunk does emulate the snare drum of 2 and 4.
Yeah, could be really handy if you're playing by yourself somewhere and you want to kind of get that going. I've found sometimes if I'm playing by myself and I really want to get people to like start clapping to get some audience participation, I'll maybe do that right at the beginning.
Yes.
Get them clapping, and then I don't have to do it anymore. But yeah, emulating a drum set
it's cool. Yeah. Now I haven't done as much like if you want, like there's some people that take this to like a whole new level where they're doing kick drum and like snare as well as like playing just like a regular part. That's not really in my wheelhouse just yet, but I'm working on it. I'm gonna get there. There's I'll have to find, I don't actually know what his name is or how to say his name, but there's an Instagrammer that I follow, and he does this one of the best, like his name is Haley Dasta. Does anybody know him? He looks like this. Let's see if it'll focus. It's not gonna focus. He's a French guy. Anyway, but he does that a lot. Like he plays, you know, a lot of the percussion stuff behind what he does, which is really cool. Anyway, let's move on because I want to make sure that I show you kind of the wide gamut of what you can do. So we've done eighth notes. We've done you know, with the up strums. We've done the muted chunks. Let's do maybe, all right, let's go into some more syncopated stuff. Okay, I have a document here. Here, let's see if I so this, I'll put this in the chat. This is just something I found online that I thought was useful. This kind of gives you a couple different strumming patterns that you can use. This one's very simple, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and there's our eighth note strumming pattern. This one is just 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2. Again, pretty simple. Then we can get into some syncopated stuff. So like this one, for instance. Exercise number 1. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. All right, let's take a look at this one. The idea of a syncopated pattern is that you're missing, like you're not gonna play on a beat, you're going to play on the and of a beat in the middle of the phrase. Okay, so this is one of the more simple syncopated patterns that we could do. Again, just on a G chord. Let's try playing this together. It's exercise number 1. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 4. So if you think about it, where it says miss, your hand is still going down. So you could end up playing that 1, 2, and 4. By taking it out, it just kind of gives it a little more complexity. But your hand is still going down, and you should still keep that same pattern, that same up and down motion to make sure that you're staying in time. That one's pretty simple, right? We got that one. Let's go to number 2. Here's number 2. So this one will be 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and 1. It's pretty much the same as number 1, except you're subdividing beat 4. So let's try this exercise number 2. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 4. All right, now let's try. That's pretty simple. We can play that. Let's try to give it some variety with our accents. So you could play it like you're accenting 1. Let's try to accent the and of 2. So you'd have 1. 2. You hear how I'm putting a little bit of an emphasis on that upbeat on the and of 2? It kind of gives it, to me, it helps to give it a little bit of shape. Let's try to do that again. Let's do it on a C chord, just, so we play a different chord altogether. C chord. This time we're going to accent beat 1 and the and of 2. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1. Let's see. You want to go I don't want to go too fast, but I know that some of you I want to get to some of these the more advanced ones as well. Let's do another one in this vein. Let's do number 3. 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and again on the C chord. Here we go. Exercise number 3. 1 and 2 and ready, go. 1, 2, yeah. All right. What do you guys think? Are you having any issues with getting that together?
Hey, Josh, sorry, I keep jumping in, but if you're okay with it.
Yeah, go.
I did have a comment. And again, you may have been about to do this already, so I apologize. But one thing that's cool with all of these strum patterns too, even these ones that sound kind of simple, if you want to make them sound more rhythmic, you can combine what you were doing before with the muted stroke and put that where the miss is. So like if we go back up to, see if I can see it, I think number 2 is still up on the screen. So if on the missed stroke, if you put a muted downstroke in there, then all of a sudden you kind of have a cool, funky little pattern. Same thing with number 1. You can do things like that with all of these patterns that maybe seem rudimentary at first and do something like that to them to spice them up a little bit, just to give it some variety.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point, Jimmy. Am I muted? No. That's a good point. So then you have other ones like this, like I mean, these are still these are basically different variations of the same kind of phrase. Let's look at let's get past the boom chucks. Let's do some 16th note strumming patterns. So I like number 2. Let's do number 2. 1 and 2 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1. And I kind of like the suggestion that we're using down, 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 up, down, because to me it's going to help you kind of keep time a little better, because your hand is still doing that same up down motion as opposed to down up down up down up down up down up down up. So you don't want your hand to do different time. So if you go down down, your hand is never changing that same motion. Down, down. You see what I mean? Which is really cool. Let's do that together. Here we go. Exercise number 2. 1 and 2 and ready and go. Yeah. That's pretty good, right? Then you have number 3, 1, 2, and a 3, 4, and a 1, 2, and a 3. And this one, because you are using 16th, I would still keep my hand doing that same motion on the quarter note. So 1, 2, 3. And you don't have to go all the way down when you're not actually playing, but just kind of keeping your hand moving gives it some sense of beat. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Here's some more right-handed mutes. I'm gonna put this in the chat so you guys can download it. I just want to make sure that we cover something for everyone. These ones are kind of fun because this gets more into like what I would play a lot of the time anyway. Because it's for me, I like the feeling of, I don't know if it's technically considered a hemiola, but like it's like a duple kind of feel, or 3 against 4 kind of thing, where like number 1, for example, 1, 2, and hold on, 1, 2, and bum bum ba dum ba dum bum 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 ba dum ba dum bum 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 ba dum ba dum bum down down up down 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 up down 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 up down 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 up down 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 up down down. Let's try doing that one. Let's do it on C. Let's try it back on the C chord. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Down, 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 up, down, down, Yeah? What do you think? Is that that's getting more in line with something that you would end up using a good bit, for me anyway. Let's see. Let's look at number 3. This one looks crazy, but once you kind of figure out the pattern, like, it really isn't that bad. So this one, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, honestly, I get more confused trying to figure out like saying down and up. Like it's just like the actual playing is kind of natural to me, but trying to figure out am I saying down or up? What's confusing for me. All right, let's try this one a little bit slow. This is probably as advanced as you're probably gonna. I mean, you get a lot crazier, but this is normal advanced. Back on the G chord for me. 1, 2, and ready and go. Down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, And if you notice, like I am putting an accent in there to kind of accentuate that you have the down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 down. That'll help keep that movement going forward. Sometimes on this miss, I'll end up actually playing that, and I think it's kind of cool. Like I kind of like it. So, and at that point, it almost has like a 6/8 kind of pattern to it, which I'm just seeing now, which is actually kind of interesting. Like music, there's so much math in music that you could, if you wanted to kind of parse out, like it makes it work. But like this kind of blurs the line between like a 4/4 pattern and like what would end up being like a 6/8 pattern, which is kind of interesting to me. What do you guys think? Is this one that you have used before, or is it getting a little too crazy? Anna, what do you think? Have you used this one before?
No, I have not.
You have not. In practicing this, what's the hardest part in trying to get this one together? Is it too fast?
It's just I think from like repeating it from like the end to the beginning is the hard part for me.
Yeah, I totally get that, because like you kind of make it to the end of the phrase and then you're like, oh, I gotta go back to the top. For me, like I think it is kind of complicated to look at it written out like this, but honestly like the and at the end of 4, I'm using it as almost like a springboard back into the front part of the phrase, da da da, because I know that kind of gives me some momentum to go back into the phrase again, if that makes sense. Like if you lean into it a little bit. Does that make sense? Like sometimes it's easier to say, oh yeah, you just do this, but then when like you're learning it for the first time, like there's a lot going on with it. What do you guys think? So that's kind of like the broad range of them. I wanted to make sure like I cover everything, but then we can go back and we can work on something that is more reflective of where you are right now. Is there one that you'd like to go back and take a look at? Man, you guys are talkative. Here, let me figure out a way. I'm gonna put this in the chat before I forget about it.
Hey Josh, can I take a second to
Yes.
give you a minute to do that?
Yeah.
One thing for me, I play drums a little bit too, so this may be just me personally. But whenever I'm thinking about strum patterns, I'm always thinking like I'm hearing a drum set player in the back of my head. So you do some of these patterns that we were doing, like a boom, boom, if you think about it, you can hear a drum set in there. Doom, doom, cat,
Yeah.
doom, doom, cat. And when you're deciding what strum pattern you're wanting to play, if you're playing with a drummer and you listen back to them, that's going to inform your strum patterns a lot of times. It really should, honestly, you playing with other people. It's a big help to listen to your drummer. And I hadn't thought about this before, but Josh, when you were doing the muted strum patterns, that helped me too to kind of identify where everything is, and it sounded real rhythmic at that point. Whereas if you're holding a chord, it can just kind of all start to ring together, and it's easy to kind of fool yourself into thinking that you got it. But whenever you break it down into just the rhythmic aspect of it, you can really hear what sounds like drums in that. And to me, that helps. It helps with just the feel of the music. I had one other point I wanted to make, if that's okay. I don't want to stomp all over your
Please.
Josh's time here. In addition to playing with the metronome and playing with recordings, I really like going on to YouTube. I've got my phone pulled up here and find we were playing at 90 beats per minute earlier. So if you type into YouTube drum loop 90 BPM, and it gives you a drum loop. Well, first it gives you an ad. Then it gives you a drum loop that you can play to. And this is a fun way to practice as well. So I don't know if I hold it up to the mic here, if you can hear it. So it's like a metronome, except it's got a groove to it, which is really awesome. I think that's a great way to practice. In fact, I would
Absolutely.
I would say that we should probably maybe do a little bit more of that kind of practice to help us with getting just the feel of the music in our playing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. There's so much on YouTube that can be a resource for us in learning how to play. It really is helpful. Like we just don't really know often what to look for. But yes, like drum loops at just about every tempo. It's great. The same goes for like if you're doing slower stuff, you can find pads if you just want to kind of mess around with different strumming patterns or finger picking. Like we'll get to some finger picking stuff later in the week as well. But yeah, like YouTube has a ton of resources that can serve as a support for you. Yeah. You guys have any questions? Like I know this is a lot of material, but like honestly, I just wanted to kind of put it out there and give you I put that strumming pattern sheet in the chat, so you should be able to download it. But take that and practice it. Honestly, there's a ton of stuff in there. Practice it with the metronome. I like the drum loop a little better because it's a little more fun and a little more realistic as well. And it does with a drum loop will subdivide it more than like a metronome will. It'll be a little more interesting. Yeah, Jackie, what do you think? You in good shape?
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
So when you do like part of the miss, do you just lift up your hand and not play that
Yep.
part?
So if you're doing a miss, you're not actually making contact with the strings. Like your hand is still going up. Like, you're just kind of waving it. Like you're kind of, moving away from the strings just slightly so that you're not actually hitting it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question. Ian, what do you think? You good? Yeah. Anna, what do you think? You in good shape? All right. Well, thank you guys. That's all I had. Tomorrow we're gonna do some more stuff. Let's see if I can pull up my sheet. Because honestly, I've forgotten what each class is doing. Tomorrow in acoustic guitar, we're going to work on some finger picking stuff. Jimmy's going to talk about some good, electric guitar pedals, unless he's switched it up a little bit. But yeah, so I'd love to see you guys tomorrow. We can do some more with finger picking. Yeah. All right. Well, unless you have any more questions, you guys are good to go. Thank you guys. We'll see you.